What's up everyone, I'm the Ritual Crafter, and in today's video we're going to be looking at my entry for the Encounter Terrain's 10x10 build challenge for this month. I started off with a 10x10 block of XPS foam and started by milling it down into 1cm thick pieces. After that I cut some more 1/2 centimetre pieces, and you'll see why I did this in a sec. So I took a wire brush and started making some wood grain into these thinner pieces. I just found it was a little bit easier putting the wood grain on while the pieces were still big, rather than trying to mess about with them in little strips. So once these were all textured, I started to assemble the backdrop for my building, and as you can see here I'm just messing the edges up a little bit and just test fitting. This will give it a nice weathered look later on. And using a ball of tin foil, I've just started texturing the base and again test fitting. So as you can see here, I'm cutting the pieces down into, once again, 1cm planks, and these will serve as the decoration for our backdrop. I'm going to divide them up into 2 piles, and one of the piles I'm going to go through and snap them all in half. Next up we're going to take some sewing pins and we're going to work on sticking our piece together. We've got some PVA glue, some kitchen towel and just some old brushes that we're not really too bothered about getting knackered up with glue. So as you can see, I'm lining one edge up with PVA glue, test fitting it, and then I'm going to pin it into place and wait for the glue to set. Wipe up any excess and rinse and repeat on the other side. So what I'm going to do here, using my handheld hot wire, I'm just cutting some holes in the back of the building. This should help to make it look a bit more aged and weathered. So I'm covering the back in PVA glue, and I'm going to take some of these planks and just roughly stick them in there. I didn't really want them to be neat and even, as I think it looks a bit better when they're sort of rough and broken, and plus it helps sell the abandoned look. Same again on the other side, add some PVA glue, and as you can see I'm adding some more planks. So while that's drying, I'm going to work on some little embellishments for it. As you can see here, I've got a little resin barrel that I got from TT Combat. I've got a flickering yellow LED, which is going to serve as a lantern. It's already got a bead stuck on the top, so perfect. And we've got some white ink and some burnt umber. So we're going to start off using the airbrush. I'm going to give this barrel a white base coat. I'll clean out my airbrush and then we'll follow it up with a coat of burnt umber. Now that that's dry, we're going to go around and paint the brass rings. I've got some cheap gold craft paint and a really small brush. And you'll probably see just how shaky my hands are here. So at some point I decided it was a good idea to paint this black, which is great for a base coat, but we're just going to take a little bit of grey and just give it a dry brush, followed by a little bit of off-white. And then we're going to let that dry. Stay. There we go. Okay, now we're dry, we're going to go back to the base of the build. Just to dirty it up a little bit, we're going to add some debris on the base, and taking a bit of PVA glue I'm going to go in and stick some more broken boards on the floor. The same as before, the more random and rough the better it's going to look. And you can see it looks better already. So while that's drying, we're going to do some more work on the barrel. I've got some brown wash here from Vallejo, I'm just going to drop a little bit out and brush it onto the barrel. And as you can see, I've added way too much here, so I'm going to take a little bit of tissue and try and thin it down a little bit. Okay, so back to the base. We're going to take some more PVA glue and we're going to add a bit of texture to it this time. What I've got here on the left is some cheap snow flock that I bought off eBay, and it looks absolutely terrible for snow, but for gravel it's perfect. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to make a hole for the barrel to go through, and I've decided this is where I want to put it. So taking the hot wire tool again, poke a hole through, and again test fit, and when you're happy with it, we're going to make a little groove for the wires to go through the back. Okay, so now onto the base coat. We're going to take some matte Mod Podge, and that's mixed up with black craft paint, and just give it a good liberal coating. Make sure there's no pooling, and make sure it's spread out nice and evenly. This doesn't need to be overly thick, just make sure every little bit of foam is covered, but like I said, try to avoid any pooling and just get into all the little nooks and crannies with it. So what seemed like an eternity later, this was finally base coated and dry. So then what I'm going to do is get my airbrush and I'm going to give it a white base coat, and that'll just highlight some more details for me. And we're going to hit this with some burnt sienna. So I've taken some burnt umber and some burnt sienna, and I'm just mixing them up right inside the pot of the airbrush. And what I'm going to do is hit all the shadows and the recesses, just to give it some definition and some depth. Once that's dry, I've taken a bit of grey, mixed a bit of black and a bit of off-white, and I'm just going to go in and hit all the gravel. So now that that's dry, I've got a medium-sized flat brush and some grey craft paint. I'm going to go in and I'm just going to dry brush all these planks. Again, you don't need to do a really heavy coat, just a tiny little dry brush will do. A nice light coat will just add all you need. And using an off-white, you can see I'm just getting the very highlights of it here. Okay, when that's dry, we're going to take some more PVA glue and the old brush, and we're going to add some static grass tufts. Now I've got some 4mm and I've got some 6mm tufts here, and I'm going to alternate between them just so it doesn't get a bit monotonous. Now that that's all dry again, we're going to take some water and some PVA glue. We've got some coffee stirrers, which I've just cut to length, and some paper towel. We're going to start working on the roof. So I'm going to stick a bit of glue out here and realise that's a bad idea, and you'll see that I'll change it in a bit. Got a little shot glass just so I can get my brush into the water, just makes it a little bit easier. Test fit and then glue in place. Once that's in place, we can start ripping off the edges of some toilet paper, and this will just give it a nice, again, aged, weathered look. Okay, so we're going to pop it on there and use a bit of watered down PVA just to get in the edges and stuff. And like I said earlier, you can see this were a bad idea. Put some water in a spray bottle and gone this way. I'm just adding different layers here just until I'm happy with how it looks. Again, just add glue in between coats and press it all down on top. Make sure that you've got a nice flat but textured surface. Another layer, same again, more water, more glue. Okay, so now we're dry. We're going to take some burnt umber, some burnt sienna, and some white, and that is already pre-mixed up in my shot glass. So I'll load this up into my airbrush and you can see how it looks. This should give me the nice base for an old leather look, and you can see I'm just trying my best to avoid what we've already done and just trying to get it on the roof. So I'm going to mix a little bit of burnt umber in here just to darken it up a little bit. And again, just get selective spots, just to give it a bit of variance in the texture. Same again, just the shadows. Okay, next step, dry brushing. I've got some off-white, which I'm just going to get the highlights on the roof. And again, this should give it a nice aged leather look. And we're going to top it off doing the same again, but just with a pure white, and this is the real highlights. You don't want too much of this on here. Okay, so we're going to glue the barrel in place. Again, just take a bit of PVA glue, and I'm going to spread it around the hole, and you'll see I'll just stick the barrel in. This is for a competition, it's not going to be for a play piece. It's only ever going to be photographed from the front, and that's why I'm using a bit of masking tape just to stick it on. And as you can see here, I am struggling with the battery. There we go. So in the meantime, I'm going to work on some more embellishments. I've got these Citadel skulls box, and there's a nice looking deer skull that I've spied in here. So I'm going to give it a coat of off-white, and I'm going to mix it in with a little bit of Lamium medium. If you want a guide on how to make this, check out Luke's XPS. This is where I made mine. After a few coats and let it dry, you should have something like this. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of brown wash and just get it into all the recesses. Again, I'm going to brush it on. And while I've got the wash out, I'm going to get a big flat brush and I'm going to work it into this leather on the top. And as you can see here, I've run out of brown wash, which is just great when you're filming a video, so a couple of drops of black wash will have to do. And that's when my camera stopped working. So hopefully these cinematic shots will make up for it. This is the finished product, and you can see where I've added the skull, I've added the glass bottle on the base, there's a bird's nest, there's a bee's nest, and as you can see the LED is all on and in place. Thanks for making it this far through my build diary. If you've enjoyed it, click the like button. If you want to see more, click the subscribe button. You can find me on Instagram under Ritual Crafter. See you next time.